Hey everybody, welcome back to I'm functioning on 5 hours of sleep, and sugar is not helping. I am Del Salvador, and this is Rihanna, Loud. Let me tell you why it's a good album. So when I was a kid, when I was a lot younger than I am now, when I wasn't as old as I am now, back when much music still had music, and not shitty sitcoms, um, there was a few videos that I remember seeing back in the very early 2000s, a few names, and I remember hearing a few songs I remember hearing here and there. Like LMFAO would be one of them, Black Eyed Peas, all that kind of stuff. I remember Lady Gaga's Bad Romance video, and a couple of the songs for this album, namely Only Girl in the World, are other ones that I remember. I don't want to say fondly in my childhood. Not that they aren't good, but like it's almost more nostalgic. It's really hard to explain. But anyways, this album's a pretty good album. I'd say it's Rihanna's best. I haven't listened to all of them either, but I'd say it's pretty close because pretty much every song here, except for maybe like one or two, are really good. And one thing I really like about this album also is, at least instrumentally, every song is really different from the last. They're all very unique textures, and you I could see someone saying the instrumentals are dated and the synths are dated, because most of them are things that I could probably find on my keyboard right here with a couple settings and a couple, knobs and things. But they don't come across dated, at least to me. They're used right. I think every song, the textures and instrumentals are very well. They're very well done. And the synths they use for the atmospheres and for the melodies they're using really fit together. There's no synth sounds or textures that seem to be out of place. And that being said, there's a lot of different kind of stuff on here. Track one, S&M, starts off the whole album. Really good, really good. Banger of a song. And that's one thing I'll say right up front, is that most albums, especially in things like metal or even some psychedelic pop or so, the concept of an album is a lot different than in like rap or pop or things like that, even EDM sometimes. And it's all about an album experience. It's all about like one thing. Things like this are more about a collection of songs, and there's not necessarily like an overarching story or an overarching flow or anything really like that. It's a compilation almost of sorts, and that's part of why we can get a lot of very different sounding songs on stuff like this. And as long as it's done right, because it's very hard to do different things. Like a lot of bands and artists and groups and people can do a one sound really well, but only kind of that one sound. So when you have to step outside that zone, it can get really challenging sometimes. I feel like this album really nails that. S&M is almost very clubby. I feel actually that like the riff, or not the riff, but like the melody could be used as a riff in a probably like a hard rock song, just with how the melody and rhythm of it. Banger song, banger song. Classic song. Next song, What's My Name? Another classic. Everyone knows this song. Everyone knows this song. Everyone does. And this is one of those songs where, cause when I listen to an album, I like to just look at the cover art and just hold it. That's why I buy a lot of CDs. I just like to have it in my hands and just, all that kind of stuff. And it might just be, I don't know what it is, but the colors and the vibe that the album cover gives really match a lot of these songs. I don't necessarily have the words to explain. It's kind of nostalgic. There's some songs that just feel like autumn, and I don't know how to explain it. But What's My Name has a bit of that in instrumental. It has a just, I don't know. I don't want to say nostalgia or calming. There's just something about the synths and how it's mixed that's very, I don't know. And that's probably a bias to me hearing this song when I was a kid. But either way, also really banger song. Something I forgot to mention on S&M. Most these are all electronic based songs, but I really like in S&M and the bridge, I believe they switch from electronic drums to a real drum kit for just that little bar, and I feel like that's a really cool use of that. And I feel also it gives a unique texture. I don't think I've heard that at all, where they'll go from like digital to analog or whatever you want to call it in the middle of a song like that to change the kind of feel of it. But it's a really cool tool that I wish artists would use more. Anyways, what's my name? Cheers, drink to that. This is a really good song too. Again, different from the last. S&M is really clubby. What's my name is very poppy, very I want to say ethereal, but very calming. Cheers, drink to that is very. It's a mix of both. It's a very casual song. I couldn't see over. I couldn't see people dancing to it like S&M, but I could see people definitely put it on to at least nod their head or so. It's hard to explain. I'm also very tired, so, and again, sugar is not helping, and I wish it would. But however, I'll digress. This is one of those songs where I'm surprised people don't talk about it more. It is a really good song, and again, this is one of those songs where it just really sounds like the middle of the 2000s or wherever this was made. I forget when. Again, every video I say I should have looked X up or Y up, but I'm still here not doing that, even though I should. Next track, Fading. I'm pretty sure I remember which track this is. Really good song, really good vocals by Rihanna on this too. I'm trying to remember it in my head, but I can't. But it's a really good song nonetheless. Very different again. Only Girl in the World, again. Another banger song. Another song that everybody knows. And if you're my age, you couldn't go anywhere without hearing it somewhere. It was just a massive song. And everyone's heard it in passing somewhere at least once. California King Bed, again, and one of those songs that I'm surprised that no one talks about more. That's a really good song. It starts with these orchestral, almost symphonic kind of instrumentation, and then it proceeds into a pop song, and it's just a pop song throughout the end. And it's a little emotional too, just mostly with the key it's in, the vibe it's bringing, and also the excellent guitar solos in this song. I wasn't expecting to get guitar solos this good off of this album, off of like a pop album like this, but they're pretty good for what it is, and especially because especially the one in the middle of the song. It's not that what they're doing is incredibly intricate. It's more so just it's kind of like what makes Steve Vai an incredible guitar player. Some of his stuff isn't exactly the hardest to do. It's more so the emotion and all the nuances putting into it. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Not saying that Steve Vai is bad, but again, conversation for another day. Because that's something you can't really teach you. You can teach someone to, play this, do that. When it comes to emotion, putting your own style and spin on and little nuances on things, that's something you can't really teach people. And whoever did the solos on here really has that down. Man Down, the next track, I didn't quite like. I don't know. I'm not too big of a fan of most music coming out in the past, say 5-7 years. From this would be 2022, and this kind of gives me a bit of that vibe. It's all right. I just feel like it's definitely a personal thing because all these songs are very different from each other, and there's gonna be some that people like and some people don't. And that being said, if you do like Rihanna to some extent, I would listen to this album in full because there's at least one song everyone will like on this album, at least someone. If you like pop, there's something here for everyone. Raining Men, the next track, I didn't like it all. Man Down, I can see myself in certain situations listening to. It's not a bad song, or it's not a great song like everything else. Because all the other ones stand out completely. And Man Down was alright. Raining Men's the first one where I was like, alright, if this comes on, I just skip it. This is just that's just what it is. I don't know. Again, it's a very personal thing. But it is, for what it is, good. But I also don't listen to that much music out of the past, again, 7 years, so it's hard for me to critique that one specifically. Complicated, the next song. excellent vocals from Rihanna. Very nice, very nice, very clearly emotional. The next track, Skin. Again, I'm forgetting. Um, Sleep, man. Um, you need it. You need sleep. Um, Skin again, very laid back song. Very. It's a pretty good album closer. And then we get Love the Way You Lie Part 2. And I wouldn't say it's a better closer, but they kind of do. They could both be closer depending on just which one you put first or last, I guess. But they're more. They're better closes for different reasons. But again, Love the Way You Lie is another one of those songs where when I was a kid, you just couldn't go anywhere without hearing that song somewhere. And I just because of how it's structured and how it's written, I would say the original part one is better, but this one part two equally as good. And this is a very solid album. This is very good. If I had to give it a rating, I'd probably say 7 out of 10, maybe even 8 out of 10. But yeah, that's 8 out of 10. It's pretty good. It's 7 or 8, and I haven't listened to everything she's put out, but I've listened to a good amount, and I'd feel like this is her strongest project that she's done, and that's about it. So yeah,